Most people first meet positional encoding as something you add to a word's embedding. Modern large language models, from Llama to GPT-NeoX, threw that recipe out and did something far more elegant. Instead of adding a position vector, they rotate the query and key vectors by an angle that depends on position. It sounds almost too cute to actually work. And yet the math is beautiful. When attention takes a dot product, the absolute angles cancel and only the relative distance between two words survives. That is Rotary Positional Embedding, and it quietly powers most of today's best models. Let's see why it is so clever. Let's walk through the machinery, because it's simpler than it sounds. Follow the 4 moves. First, each token is projected into a query vector and a key vector, exactly as in ordinary attention. Nothing exotic yet. These are the 2 vectors that will decide how much one word attends to another. Now comes the twist. Each query and key is rotated by an angle proportional to its position in the sequence. A word at position 2 gets a small rotation. A word at position 50 gets a much larger one, spread across many two-dimensional planes. Notice that the values are left untouched. Only the queries and keys ever get spun. Then attention does what it always does, taking the dot product between a query and a key to score how well they match. But now both vectors have already been spun by their own positions before they ever meet. Here is the payoff. When you work through that dot product, the absolute angles cancel out, and the score ends up depending only on the distance between the two positions, m-n. Absolute rotations go in, relative distance comes out. 2 words 5 apart always feel 5 apart, no matter where they land in the sentence. So why is rotating better than the older habit of adding? Here they are side by side. The classic approach adds an absolute position vector to each embedding. It works, but it ties the model to the exact positions it saw in training, so when you feed it a sequence longer than anything it trained on, the encoding lands in unfamiliar territory and quality falls off a cliff. The model simply has no idea what position 10,000 should feel like. ROPE takes a completely different route. By rotating the queries and keys, it bakes in absolute position but makes the attention scores depend only on relative distance. That relative view generalizes far more gracefully to longer sequences, and it costs the model no extra parameters at all. Boil it down, and 3 ideas capture what makes ROPE special. It encodes position by rotation. Rather than adding anything, ROPE spins each query and key by an angle set by that token's position, right before attention compares them. Because of that rotation, the dot product between any 2 tokens depends only on how far apart they are, not on their absolute indices. Relative distance, which is what actually matters for language, falls out for free, and it adds no new parameters, while extrapolating to longer sequences far better than learned absolute embeddings. It can even be stretched after training, through tricks like position interpolation and NTK scaling, to widen a model's context window, which is why long context models lean on it. Alright, let's lock in the essentials. Rotary Positional Embedding, or ROPE, encodes a token's position by rotating its query and key vectors instead of adding a signal to the input. Because the query and key are both rotated by their positions, the attention dot product depends only on their relative distance, which is what language really cares about. It uses no extra parameters and extrapolates to longer sequences much better than older absolute schemes, and it can be stretched to widen a context window after training. That combination is exactly why most modern large language models, including Llama and GPT-NeoX, rely on ROPE for position. If you like seeing the elegant idea underneath the jargon, that is our whole mission over at standarity.com. We'll see you there.